But as Jamil Jaffer joins us now, Jamil's the founder of National Security Institute at George Mason University, former senior advisor, Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We'll talk, Jamil, for a moment, if we can, about Russia, which Kelly was reporting on first, and ISIS-K. That was interesting just this afternoon that finally Vladimir Putin came out, as opposed to blaming Ukraine for all this, said, well, maybe it is radical Islamists. Let's start there. What did you make of that?
Well, an interesting move by Vladimir Putin announcing that 11 people have been detained. 4 have shown up in court now in various forms of bruising. Appears that they have identified at least some of the plotters involved with ISIS Khorasan, a splinter group or an affiliate group of the Islamic State. Obviously, a longstanding terror group identified by the United States, now attacking Russia, killing over 130 some odd people, as you mentioned, 180 injured. The real challenge here, though, is I think what this demonstrates is, the resurgence of this terrorism coming out of that region. There was a thought that maybe some of this terrorism had calmed down. We had really put them on the run. But the reality is that this terror threat is very real. It's not just real in Russia, but it's very real here in the homeland, here in the United States, and against our allies as well. I will note that Vladimir Putin did take the opportunity to say that these terrorists were heading for the Ukrainian border as though they were going to hide in Ukraine. He couldn't help himself get not like that one get away either.
Right. No evidence of that, of course, but you're right. He always wants to tie Ukraine into it, even when he's saying that it's the radical Islamists, quote unquote, who are responsible for this. So, yeah, that it is what it is. But ISIS-K, you mentioned this resurgence. Tell us about this group in particular. I think probably most notable, what Americans would remember, is that terrible Abbey Gate suicide bombing in Afghanistan. But what should we know about this group?
That's exactly right. Well, ISIS-K has been around for a long time, just in various forms. Parts of ISIS-K belong to the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, which has been launching terror attacks for a long time in Central Asia and the like. There are other parts of it that were made up of core al-Qaeda that was there in Afghanistan after they had a dispute with the Taliban. And so ISIS-K, in a lot of ways, is an amalgamation of various terror groups that have been operating in that theater in Afghanistan and the surrounding region for quite a while. They've now just sort of adopted this name in adopting the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria moniker. But in reality, these are groups that have been around for a long time, and groups that we've been fighting against, frankly, since the beginning of the war on terror after the 9/11 attacks in 2001.
The New York Times headline that flashed up a moment ago says they have global ambitions. I mean, does that include the U.S. homeland? I mean, what should our level of concern be for a group like this, or maybe the larger ISIS group that we, to your point earlier, haven't talked about nearly as much as we used to?
Absolutely. They absolutely have intentions against the U.S. homeland and against Americans overseas. This is demonstrated in part by their own statements about what their goals and objectives are. Their goal is to establish a worldwide Islamic caliphate. And to do that, they need to go after their biggest threats, which they see as the United States and other Western powers. They, by the way, lump Russia in with the rest of the West, obviously not part of the West as we would think about it.
Right.
But that's how ISIS and ISIS-K thinks about that problem. And they very much have on their agenda to attack the United States. We've, I think, watched that threat a little bit less closely because the war in Afghanistan has now ended with our retreat from there. The war in Iraq is now largely over, although we're being attacked on an almost daily basis. Our soldiers are being attacked by Iranian proxies. And so while our theory is that these wars on terror are over, the reality is the other side doesn't think so. And at the end of the day, they're the ones doing the attacking, so they have the ownership over whether the war is over or not. And they believe the war still is very much ongoing.
Yeah, indeed, in their minds. And it's amazing how these groups come back in different forms, as we're seeing right now. Jamil, thank you. Jamil Jaffer with us. Let's bring in